Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Beetrooper Yugioh deck profile for post-Cyberstorm access. We got the new Beetrooper Cruel Saturnus in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Booster set. A cool fusion monster that definitely does help with the overall consistency of special summoning our Beetrooper monsters in the deck, and the deck just focuses on being able to get out a good number of Beetrooper monsters, whether they be tokens or the many different copies we run in the deck, and having a fusion option along with Cruel Saturnus to be our new backup to going into our bigger fusion boss monster, the Absolute Hercules. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For our Beetrooper lineup, we are running 3 copies of Beetrooper Assault Roller. With this card, you can special summon it from your hand by banishing 1 insect monster from your graveyard. You can only special summon Assault Roller once per turn this way. It gains 200 attack for each insect monster you control, except for this card, and when it's destroyed by battle, you can add 1 Beetrooper monster from your deck to your hand, except for Assault Roller. You can only use this effect of Assault Roller once per turn, so it doesn't restrict you from just normal summoning out this card. It's just a good special summon option, like a good majority of the insects that we run in the deck, as added backup for just being able to summon it onto the field, and then having additional, insect monsters when they are banished, like Resonance Insect, to have additional searches for us to use. We're also running 3 copies of Beetrooper Scale Bomber. With this card, if an insect monster is normal or special summon to your field, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, and when a monster or opponent control activates quick effect, you contribute 1 insect monster to destroy it. You can only use each effect of Beetrooper Scale Bomber once per turn, but another good setup card, just having this and 1 other, Beetrooper monster for that tribute can give you a way just to get around some of your opponent's cards, depending on which one you destroyed on their field, and as another just good resource to special summon out into the field, as you only have to summon it out when you normal or special summon another insect monster. I'm also running the 2 copies of Beetrooper Light Flapper. With this card, if it's normal or special summon, you can target 2 of your Beetrooper monsters with different names that are banished and or in your graveyard. Add them to your hand. For the rest of this turn, you cannot activate their effects or the effects of cards with their names. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can return this card to the hand and negate that attack. You can only use this effect of Beetrooper Light Flapper once per turn, but just a good way to get back some of your resources. Like I said before, we have the banish option with cards like Assault Roller, so you can banish to get this card out, and then just have a way to get them back into your hand for you to reuse the following turn with cards like Light Flapper for that play. Now, one of the cards that I want to mix around for some of the numbers that we run in the deck is Beetrooper Scout Buggy. I have 1 copy in the deck. If I were to run more copies, I would reduce the number of Light Flapper down to 1 of, and then put a 2nd copy of Scout Buggy. You cannot special summon monsters except for insect monsters. If it's normal or special summon, you can special summon 1 Beetrooper Scout Buggy from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use this effect of Scout Buggy once per turn. So once again, I would have the 2nd copy be in the spot for the Light Flapper if you were to run it in the deck as well. So remember that I only had the 1 copy, sadly, but you still need the 2nd copy to be able to use your Scout Buggy for the special summon of another copy onto the field. It just gives you that additional resource in the deck for you to use. So we have the 1 Armor Horn for the Link to play to go into. So once again, if you want the 2nd copy of the Scout Buggy, which you definitely need since you need 2 copies at least to special summon this card out, for the Light Flapper, you just drop it down, being a higher level monster as an easier tribute to get out. Also running the 1 copy of Beetrooper Sting Lancer and the 1 copy of Beetrooper Mighty Neptune, with your Mighty Neptune being a must-be special summon from your hand by shuffling through your banished insect monsters into the main deck. And during the main phase, if this card's owner's control is destroyed by or banished by an opponent's card, you can special summon this card, just making it come right back onto the field for you to use. And with Sting Lancer, you can target an insect monster in your graveyard and 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, place the targeted card onto the bottom of the deck. So if this card's normal or special summon, you can add 1 Beetrooper Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. More search, because we do run a good majority of them, including our fusion card for the deck, just being able to search out with our Sting Lancer. And then for more of the generic insect lineup, we're running 3 copies of Resonance Insect. With this card, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 5 or higher insect monster from your deck to your hand. And if this card's banished, you can send 1 insect monster from your deck to the graveyard, except for Resonance Insect, giving you more resources for your banish costs with the cards you can send, but also just being able to search out some of the higher level Beetrooper monsters makes it all the better for sure with this card. I also run the 3 copies of Ezectopede, the Worm Warrior. With the restriction, it cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned by banishing 1 insect monster from your graveyard. and if it cannot be special summoned by other ways. And if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you send the top card of their deck to the graveyard. So another banished target for Resonant Insect to make use of. If you didn't want to drop the number of Light Flapper down for the second copy of Scout Buggy, you can drop one copy of Worm Warrior, because opening up multiples of this card in your hand if you don't have the banish is definitely a dead draw. So you can even put the second copy of Scout Buggy in the spot for the Worm Warrior. Also, for more of the banish option, 2 copies of Doomdozer. With this card, it cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by banishing 2 insects from your graveyard. And if it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, send the top card of their deck to the graveyard again. But a 2800 attack point monster and a bigger boss monster to get around as well, needing the 2 banish, but still very useful for the shuffle back power we have with cards like our special summon for our Mighty Neptune, being able to add this card off of Resonance Insect and then have plenty of the banish if we use cards like Doomdozer or Zectopede to banish all of them and getting us our additional insect resources on the field to use. The last of the insect monsters I run is the 1 copy of the Beargram Shield Emperor of the Forest Crown. It cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard by banishing 3 insect and or plant monsters from your hand and or graveyard. You can only special summon Beargram once per turn, and your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to your spell and traps or effect activation. And once per turn during the main phase, you can destroy all face-up monsters on the field except for insect and plant monsters. And also, this card cannot attack directly for the rest of the turn, but still a great boss monster which can be searched out in the deck again, just needing the special summon of banishing 3 insect monsters from your hand and your graveyard. So the hand resource, especially if we have, once again, just cards that are kind of a dead draw in our hand if we don't have the resource to banish, but still being able to get this boss monster out and then take out all your opponent's cards and have more protection for your own as well. And then lastly, for the main deck monsters, 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Just the hand trap of choice to shut down your opponent's cards. If you didn't want to run hand traps and go for more of an insect lineup, you can increase your numbers of cards like your Sting Lancer. And this could even be the spot for Scout Buggy if you didn't want to take out the Light Flapper or the Zectopede spots also. Moving on now to the spells, we're running 3 copies of Beetrooper Landing, the fusion spell card. You fusion summon 1 insect fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish 2 insect monsters in your graveyard to add this card to your hand. You can only use this effect of Beetrooper Landing once per turn, so it's just a way to have the search power. Technically, you could add this card for your spell and trap option for your Beetroopers off of cards like Beetrooper Sting Lancer when it's normal or special summon, and then have the recycle power as well. But still, you can only use the recycle power of landing once per turn, but the multiple fusions that you may want to use as well with cards like getting out Cruel Saturnus and then the additional boss monster Absolute Hercules, you'll need the multiple spells for this card, so that's why I'm running more than 1 copy of it in the deck, just so we have a better chance to see it in our hand, and then the additional fusion plays we can go into if we have to search out cards like Sting Lancer also. I also run the 2 copies of the field spell, Beetrooper Formation. You can target 1 Beetrooper monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. Also, you lose life points equal to its original attack. If a face-up insect monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Beetrooper token onto the field, and you can only use this effect of Beetrooper Formation once per turn. It gives you another insect resource on the field, but also gives you a way to get back some of your Beetrooper monsters in your graveyard in exchange for you losing life points, which it really doesn't matter if it cannot attack, because most of the time you'll want to use it for that resource anyway. If you can set up cards like your Beetrooper Sting Lancer in the graveyard, you can just special summon it back with Beetrooper Formation. You'll lose life points equal to its attack, which could be a big burn damage there, but then you get the search for a Beetrooper spell or trap if you do that. Also, the 2 copies of Beetrooper Descent. With this card, you special summon 1 Beetrooper token onto the field. Then if you control an insect monster with 3,000 or more attack, you can destroy 1 other spell or trap on the field. So it gives you destruction power, and then as long as you have one of those bigger insect boss monsters on the field, you have an additional destruction power on top of this card as well. I'm also running the 3 copies of Insect Invitation, just being able to tribute 1 monster to special summon 1 insect monster from your deck whose level is 1 higher than the tributed monster. So even if you have to result in cards like Ash Blossom, you could tribute Ash Blossom and still get a special summon of a Beetrooper monster that's at least 1 level higher than the card, if need be, if you had a hand trap that wasn't really doing anything in your hand, if you open up multiple copies of it and you still need the play to go into. Insect Imitation can help with that, but it can also just give you some of your higher level cards depending on what you want to summon out onto the field. You can have the play of using your Scout Buggy to go into the Assault Roller play as well, or even just the additional setup of those cards cards when you have them on your field for you to use with some of your other bigger boss monsters, depending on what you want to summon out for those cards. You also have the Scale Bomber play into the same Tribute Special Summon option. And then for the traps, I'm running 2 copies of Beetrooper Fly and Sting. When your opponent activates a monster effect while you control a Beetrooper monster, negate the activation. If you do, destroy it. And during your end phase, if this card's in the graveyard, you control an insect monster with 3,000 more attack. You can banish 1 insect monster from your graveyard to set this card, resetting up your counter trap as well for that play. And then also just being able to stop a monster effect. That's why I'm only running the 2 copies. It's not a spell or trap negation effect, so it can't really protect your back row if you have it set up for those plays. The other back row being 2 copies of Beetrooper Squad. Tribute 1 non-insect token monster. Special summon up to 1 Beetrooper token with 1,000 attack and 1,000 defense for every 1,000 original attack of that tributed monster. So if you have one of your bigger monsters on the field, that can give you a resource for 3 tokens thanks to this card as well. And lastly, the 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence just for the final hand trap option, along with our Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring to stop our opponent's monster effects. Moving on now to the extra deck, we're running 2 copies of Beetrooper Cruel Saturnus, needing 1 Beetrooper monster and 1 insect monster. You cannot special summon except for insect monsters. You can only use each of the following effects of Beetrooper Cruel Saturnus once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can add 1 Beetrooper card from your deck to your hand. If an insect monster is banished face up except during the damage step, you can target 1 of your banished Beetrooper monsters and special summon it. Being a level 5 monster, you do have the option for the potential instant fusion play for this card, just when it's special summoned, being able to add a Beetrooper card from your deck to your hand. If you wanted to run instant fusion, you can always reduce the number of insect invitation you run for a copy of that spell. You never know what's going to happen with instant fusion. I didn't want to risk if it does potentially get hit, but you know, with tier limits not being a thing anymore, I don't see it happening. It hasn't really been seeing as much play, but still that added option to run if you want to play it in the deck to summon out your Cruel Saturnus and then just get an additional surge off of it to use with this card. And then also with your Cruel Saturnus being a level 5 monster, if you use the insect imitation play to tribute this card, you have a way to then special summon out your level 6 Light Flapper onto the field, which can give you the additional search as well. I also run 2 copies of Ultra Beetrooper Absolute Hercules, needing 4 insect monsters. After its fusion summon, it's unaffected by other cards until the end of your next turn. And at the end of the battle of this card, you can target 1 insect monster with 3,000 or less attack in your graveyard and special summon it. So not only can Absolute Hercules give you a resource like your go-to Mighty Neptune, which it must first be special summoned. So if you have Mighty Neptune on the field, you can at least then special summon it afterwards if it's been special summoned properly with your Absolute Hercules. And then this card could also be potentially tributed for your Beetrooper squad to give you 3 Beetrooper tokens on the field to use for your Link plays. And also, we're running the 1 copy of Beetrooper Armor Horn. If you want to run additional copies of this card, you can take out some of the generic Link monsters that we run. You cannot special summon except for insects. You can only use each of the following effects of Armor Horn once per turn. During your main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 insect monster. If this card's in your graveyard, you can banish 3 other insect monsters from your graveyard to special summon it, banish it when it leaves the field, giving you more of a banish resource option for your insect as well for you to use. But also the additional normal summon just comes in handy to give you 1 additional monster on the field that could either be used for the tribute play or any other one that we mentioned before in the video. Also, the 2 copies of Invincible Atlas, a bigger Link monster. If you want to run a second Armor Horn, you could always drop down 1 copy of this card for a second copy of that one as well. While this Link Summon card has 3,000 or less attack, your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects, and you cannot special summon except for insect monsters. And you can tribute 1 insect monster and activate 1 of these effects to special summon 1 Beetrooper monster from your deck, or to have this card gain 2,000 attack till the end of this turn. So another way just to get cards like Light Flapper for their additional search, or the monster destruction power of Scale Bomber, or even just the additional option for your plays with cards like Assault Roller to go into your opponent's own monsters. We also run the 1 copy of Shinobi Insect, Hakuregumino, and the 1 Piccofelina for the additional generic Link to insects to use. And also the 1 Nightmare Phoenix, the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Asa the Earth Charmer, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Access Code Talker for more of the generic Link lineup. If you wanted to run additional copies of the Armor Horn, but keep the number of Incredible Atlas you run, since we are limited to insect summons for a good majority of our plays, you can drop either the Asa or the Cross Sheep for more copies of that Link to Insect monster. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, our Fusion Reliance on Cruel Saturnus just needs one Beetrooper monster and one insect monster. So depending on what you have in your hand, it could also potentially be another way for you to set up the Resonance Insect in your graveyard. So if you have the Fusion setup, so let's say these 3 cards in your hand, it could just be one Beetrooper and then one other generic insect monster in your hand. It could potentially be another Beetrooper as well. You can activate Beetrooper Landing, then using both of these cards for the Fusion play, getting out your Cruel Saturnus onto the field. And then also with this card, when it's special summon, you can add one Beetrooper card from your deck to your hand. So then with the search of an additional Beetrooper card, you could search for the field spell, because then you can activate this. And then with the field spell play, you can special summon back your Scale Bomber onto the field. And then you have the play to either use for your monster, being able to target one of your banished Beetrooper monsters and special summon it. With this play, if an insect monster is banished face up, except during the damage step. So you can either go for the summon of your Scale Bomber, and then from there, you can go for the play if you have the banish in your hand to use for the Resonance Insect you sent to the graveyard. For depending on what you summon out, if you have your Azectopede in your hand, you could use that play. If you have one of your bigger monsters in your hand, you could even go for the Link 2 play using the 2 insect monsters we summoned onto the field to go into our Link 2 monster. So then with the Link 2 monster setup, you have the 3 insects in the graveyard or the 2, depending on which one you have in your hand. Additionally, for the banish, if you banish them and get out your bigger monster as well, you have the search off of your Resonance Insect also for you to then, when it's banished, send one insect monster from your deck to the graveyard. So then with the banish play, you could set up cards for more search, like your Sting Lancer in the graveyard, to then summon off of your Beetrooper formation as well with the special summon play back onto the field the following turn to get the additional search, and then also with the Armor Horn giving you an additional normal summon for one more Beetrooper monster on your field or hand to use. So then you could use the additional monsters you have, or depending on which one you banish, to then go into your Link 4 Beetrooper monster also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. It's a really awesome insect deck, kind of overlooked with me sometimes when I'm working on decks like the Weevil Underworld deck with the support we got from the previous booster set. But it is cool that we got the Cruel Saturnus play to use in this deck as well. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.